Hey friends, my name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to the show. It's Fresh Gear Friday. DJI O4 released today. Did it release yesterday? I think it released yesterday. And we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. There's not much bad or ugly. It's mainly good. So if you click this in hopes of someone trashing on DJI, I don't have a whole lot. Fair warning, I do not have it. This is a tiny little channel here, niche within a niche within a niche within a niche. DJI has no interest, I'm sure, in me. But I've watched a ton of the reviews, and lots of super talented people have put out flight footage and their thoughts and specs and all kinds of good stuff. So by now, most of you have probably seen a bunch of that stuff. And I'm just, since I don't have it, this is the best that I can do. And I know that a lot of folks are always kind of interested in what I think about this stuff. So I'm going to do my best. That flight footage just now was the 2S 75mm analog rig. With a freshly charged 300 mAh 2S TinyWhoop BT 3.0 battery. We got snow here in Georgia this morning at 7 a.m. And I got up, the family got up, the most recent live stream, Wednesday, I tried to fix the 2S rig, the 2S Walksnail rig, and I was almost there, and then either the TX or the RX wire broke off of the AIO, and I just didn't have it in me at that point to keep working on it. Since I was awake, I came on down here and fixed that wire. I fixed something else. Oh yeah, I ended up when I stripped tins and reconnected that wire, I accidentally touched the pad next to it, and then that wire fell off. And then the pad next to it didn't look all that great, so I desoldered that one as well. When I resoldered those 3 30 gauge wires back on, I got them. I did not keep them arranged properly. With these little double stack builds, wire management is really important because we're putting everything so close together that you can't have the wires twisting over one another. You don't have the height for that. So you have to have your wires set up properly here so that they're not crossing all over each other. You do have to have the ground go from the right side here to the left side of the Walksnail builds, and the voltage wire does the same thing, but the TX and RX wires need to run flat. And I had them all, when I resoldered them, I thought that I was doing it right, but I had them twisted like this. So one of the wires went like full circle, and then the other 2 wires crossed when they didn't need to cross. And that adds a bunch of height, and again, we don't have that height to spare on these builds. So I then desoldered 2 of the wires from the VTX and got them oriented properly so that they would all sit nice and flat. Got it all put back together, super excited, plug a battery in and it catches on fire. During the live stream, I had changed the routing of the BT 3.0 lead. So I'd resoldered that lead. I have a funny feeling that when I was removing a little bit of solder by flicking the tip of the soldering iron here on the work mat, I think that I might have sent a solder ball up onto the AIO, and I believe that's what made the AIO catch on fire. So that's how I started my day. You know, the 2S Walksnail rig is now down again, and I'm pretty sure that I need to buy another one of these BetaFPV 12 amp version 3 AIOs, which I might not be able to do. Somebody left a comment on one of my live streams that I saw this morning saying, yo, where are you finding those BetaFPV 12 amp version 3 AIOs? They're sold out everywhere. So now I have a weird feeling that they might have discontinued this AIO. Hopefully that person just didn't search in enough places and I can find it in stock somewhere because I really like it. We'll see. I have not had a chance to. This was a working rig. There's no reason for this AIO to have caught on fire the way that it did. I checked my work on the flight controller pads going up to the VTX and on the VTX. None of those are bridged together. So it was either totally random that it caught on fire or a solder ball. When I pull it apart, maybe I'll be able to see where it went up in flames. It actually didn't. There was no fire. There was just a pretty significant puff of smoke. So yeah, that was how I started my day. And then I grabbed the 0802 2S analog rig. Here. So I then grabbed this guy. Wow, computer, you are really testing my patience here today. I don't know what's going on, but this computer is running horribly today. So this is the analog 0802 19,000 kV rig. My favorite of the analog 2S rigs at the moment. Started flying this. Whole bunch of jello, as you can see. And wait, this ain't it. That's not it. That's not the file that I want. That's the file that I played during the intro. Here it is. So 802 2S analog rig. Oh, great. This will. Okay, that's not it either. What is happening? Here it is. Here it is. 802 analog rig. All right, great. We're gonna fly the snow. Fantastic. All right, let's take off and start flying. Oh my God, what is happening? What is going on with the video quality? Lots of jello too. When everything is all white, the shutter speed goes bananas to try to get some exposure. So the jello makes sense. But yeah, I couldn't fly more than like 20 feet away without the video quality going to absolute hell. So I came back inside and saw that there was no antenna on it. It's a little bit hard to get into these canopies to fix to reconnect an antenna. So I just went back downstairs, put it down, grabbed the 1002 rig. That's what you guys saw in the intro, was me flying the 1002 2S analog build. You may have noticed, and that was a fully charged battery, and the runtime was like, I don't know, 50 seconds. The cold, lipos hate the cold. Little tiny TinyWhoop lipos apparently really hate the cold. Unbelievable how short the runtime was on these little 2S 300s. And then so I had a bunch of 1S 300s charged. Okay, so in the here, I'll pull it back up. In the flight footage from the intro, right, you see the voltage, so we're at 17 seconds, and the battery is all the way down to 3.5 volts, 3.4, right, already getting a low battery warning at 23 seconds. This, I am holding that battery, right, I'm going to let this play so that you can watch what happens with the voltage. I'll even make it full screen. Now we're down to 3.35, 3.4. This is that battery that I'm holding in my hand. No, it's not. Hold on. I will find that battery. Look at the voltage! 1.4, 1.3. Look at it! Ooh! I was trying to go full throttle to get the battery to warm up a little bit. That's one of the tricks when you're flying in the cold, is to use more throttle to get the battery to warm up. This is that battery. I've not recharged this. Can you see it? There, you can see it. This is that battery. That is how bad the cold affects these batteries. It just kills them. And it was snowing outside, right? So it was what, like 32 degrees pretty much. Whatever the temperature is that snow happens. So like it wasn't 0 degrees out, but I mean it was obviously cold. So yeah, Render says it sounds like a bad battery. Nope, just the cold. The small, you know, we talk about this a lot. Batteries pouches, lipo pouches, which are what these batteries are made of, under 450 mAh perform horrible. This is a 300. These are also 300s. So I then grabbed the Snow White build because, you know, if you're going to fly a rig in the snow, why not have it be the most white one that you've got, so that if it goes down, you have no chance of finding it. And so here comes my attempt at flying a 1S rig. No idea. Quad's totally fine. HDZero goggles just start freaking out, right? So that happens. And then power it down, power it back up, and this is what I get. A little bit of video, right? Cool. Now we're back. All right, great. Just had to power cycle the HDZero goggles. No sweat. Does it again. Battery is fully charged, and we're inside. This is not quad related. This is the goggles freaking out. Power cycle the goggles again. Now we're back. I forget what was happening here. I don't remember what was going on here, but there we go. So now we're flying the 1S rig, and I actually remembered to turn the OSD off this time. I was kind of pissed on that previous video. I forgot to flip the switch to turn the OSD off. These are my neighbors, the Plonskys, and so they were out sledding, and through all this nonsense, they're now done sledding, which I was kind of pissed off about because, you know, chasing a subject is super fun. But I decided, hey, let's just fly around the house in the snow. Immediate land now, low battery warnings. So the 1S folded cell BT 2.0 batteries, no better. This is a perfect example of, you know, 300 mAh cells are, like, we are absolutely pushing the limits of what's possible with TinyWhoops. And if you throw anything that's like not ideal at them, like low temperature, they just completely fall to pieces. This is a little bit better runtime. Like, we're at about a minute now. This is probably about 50 seconds. This is probably like 1 minute total runtime from a battery that railing inside the house gets like 2.5 minutes to 3. So yeah, this is the first time that I've flown these tiny little batteries. So that was, that build is a CO3 camera in a Beta FPV canopy, shitty whip antenna with the ground plane removed to make it ultra lightweight, Newbie Drone Cockroach V3 frame, Weebleed 0702 40,000 kV motors, and this is the Matrix 5-in-1, the Beta FPV Matrix 5-in-1 AIO. The rig performed fine, but yeah, the battery just in the cold, these little 300 mAh batteries are pretty much worthless. Although, I mean, I got a minute of runtime. It's better than nothing. I got a little bit of runtime, right? I flew over to the neighbors and flew out in the snow for not very long, but hey, they kind of work. Just, you got to understand that. You got to understand that if you're going to fly a TinyWhoop in 30-degree weather, you're going to get about a minute of runtime. There you go. There's a low battery warning already. Signal is a hot mess because the antenna sucks. I should not have flown this rig. I should have flown one with a micro V antenna. But I saw, when I was grabbing one of these 1S builds, I saw that it was all white, and I was like, oh, that's fitting. So yeah, there's one of the neighbors. That's actually not a Plonsky. That's their neighbor sledding in their front yard. This is the video performance that you get when you take one of these whip antennas and you remove the ground plane. It sucks. It's super, super, super lightweight. It's like 0.2 of a gram. But if you're going to try to fly it outside from standing inside your front door, the range is going to suck. That, you know, kind of goes without saying. And that's it. That's all the flying I did. I was like, well, I can keep... what else was I going to do? If I'd kept flying, I would have put it into the snow. And, like, it would probably have survived, but I'm not going to take the chance. It's... I got a little bit of flying in. Didn't have a chance to fly Walksnail because the universe didn't want me to. I decided not to fly... I do have the 1S 65mm Walksnail rigs. I decided not to fly them because I knew that the batteries were going to get hammered by the cold anyway. And with Walksnail, 1S rigs have pretty short runtimes as it is. My guess would have been flying a Walksnail 1S rig, I would have gotten like 30 seconds of runtime. And then lost it in the snow, and then with my luck, the Walksnail VTX would have shat the bed. Hopefully, when this 2S rig exploded, it did not take the Walksnail VTX with it. That would be Walksnail Lite number 4 that possibly has failed on me. I have 3 sitting in a bag here that I need to do the repair process to get them back to Caddx. So yeah, that was my morning. DJI O4 is the main topic of conversation for this live stream. Although, as with all live streams, this is Q&A, and so I'm gonna get caught up on chat in a second here. But just super quick, O4, phenomenal. I ordered with my own affiliate link. I actually remembered. From BetaFPV, I ordered the lightweight one, which they're just calling the O4 Air unit. And I almost didn't order one of the Pros, but what I remembered is that I want to do a CiottiFPV build with the O4 Pro and not carry a GoPro. Hold on, I gotta... Anybody wearing headphones is probably very annoyed. Alright, now you'll be less annoyed. I had to move our air purifier thing down here into the basement because when we light fires in the fireplace upstairs, wood burning fires, for whatever reason, all of the fumes and allergens just dump down the stairwell into the basement, and I've just been absolutely suffering for the past couple of days from that. And so I'm trying to get a handle on it because I don't want to be a Grinch and be like, you know, no fires, because Maggie loves fires in the fireplace upstairs, and, you know, they're romantic, I guess. But yeah, my allergies are paying the price, unfortunately. So yeah, O4, wild. We're gonna dive into. If you haven't watched it already, I'm gonna link it right now. Chris Rosser's video is phenomenal. There's a link in chat. Watch it for sure. Lots of really good points. He hits pretty much all the bases. He shows comparison stuff. We're just gonna bounce around in that video a little bit and look at a bunch of stuff. The good and the bad and the ugly are basically that. The good is like 98% of it. The bad and the ugly are that the lightweight O4 air unit, which I think they should have called the O4 Lite, but whatever. The O4 air unit, the 10-gram one, the field of view is only 120 degrees, which is awful narrow. Chris does a comparison though of it against the Avatar. The Avatar, and the field of view doesn't look much different. We're gonna jump to that in a second here, but yeah, I was shocked at that. The other kind of bad / ugly is the obviously like the latency, right? As the video quality goes up, the latency also goes up. And we'll hit, he did a super helpful little graph of that we'll click on and just kind of take a look at. That's about it though. I guess if you really, so like those would be like the ugly, I guess. The bad would be the fact that the lightweight O4 air unit, you cannot power via 1S without a step up 5-volt regulator. At 10 grams, that doesn't really matter. You do not want to build a 1S rig with a 10-gram payload. That is going to just cripple its flight performance. These 2S rigs that these 2S75s that we've been doing are a miracle. Way more power and way more runtime. And like the total weight gain when you run these amazing little TinyWhoop 2S300 BT 3.0 batteries is 2 grams. So for 2 extra grams, you get way more power and way more runtime. And like realistically, that completely eliminates any reason whatsoever to build a 1S rig that is 75 millimeters. A 10-gram payload on a 65 millimeter 1S rig is gonna suck. It's gonna be too heavy to take advantage of the fact that you're building it ultra small. The runtime is gonna suck. You're gonna be forced to run these massive 465 milliamp Weebleed batteries, which are gonna stick out the front like you're jousting with your quad. So you're not gonna be able to crash, because if you crash, you're gonna hit the battery, and that's going to shove the battery back and try to rip off the battery lead. So you can't crash it. The flight performance is going to suck because the propellers are so small. You're going to make the motors are going to get awful hot. You're not going to want to do that on 702s. So you're going to go like 802s, and now it's even heavier for a 65. It's not going to make any sense. The people that are going to do 1S 65 millimeter builds are either they just don't understand, or they're just trying to be different. They're just trying to get you to click their video essentially because, oh look, it's the lightest weight O4 build on Earth, and then they're gonna fly it and it's gonna suck, or they're not gonna fly it and they're just gonna talk all about the build, right? So don't do that. O4 makes little to no sense for a 65 millimeter, especially a 65 millimeter, but also for 1S, right? To do a 1S build, you have to run an external BEC, which is adding even more weight. In fairness, BetaFPV does have a new 1S board coming out with a giant JST plug on top, and they've built in a 5-volt BEC. So technically that will save you the extra weight and complexity of running that step up 5-volt BEC, but still, it's not going to be light enough. A 10-gram payload is way too much for a 65 millimeter build, and it's also too much for a 1S build. 2S is hands down the way to go. You're not going to have to worry about any of that nonsense. You can send it straight battery voltage, and even when the battery sags down, you're going to be totally fine, and you're going to get a rig that actually flies half decent. So, yeah. I can't wait to see how many people build 1S O4 rigs that fly like complete anus. We'll see. But I mean, you know, I get it. I get it. I've fallen victim to like the, oh, I got to do something that's different. I got to do something that's different, right? That's what people will want to watch. Um, you know, do you want something that you would like to fly, or do you want people to watch you do a build, or look at the pictures of your build? You know, if that's what makes you smile, I guess go for it. I don't care about that. I want stuff that flies good, and has half decent runtime. And for a 10-gram payload, a 10-gram VTX and camera, unquestionably, that is 2S 75 millimeters. You could go up to 85 mil. I don't really think you're going to need to. I've flown a ton of batteries now on this Walksnail 2S 75 millimeter rig, and it has all the power and runtime that I need on these little tiny 300 mAh batteries. If I want more runtime, I can run the 450 mAh 2S BT 3.0 batteries. It's the sweet spot for sure. Going up to 85 millimeter puts a bigger duct in front, so you get even more duct in view, which is just silly. Why? Why are you going to do that? It's going to get a bunch heavier. It's going to be harder to shoot the tiny little gaps in the garden. 75 is the way. The runtime is there. The power is there. You're going to have something that's as quiet as it can be. So if you want to go fly like in Target or in the mall or something like that, there's less chance of you getting yelled at by security. 75 is the way to go. 85 also has even less of a part selection than 75, right? Like, we're super spoiled with 65 millimeter rigs. There's tons of frames, tons of AIOs, tons of propellers. And so you can build a 65 millimeter analog rig or HDZero rig, or Walksnail, to be like absolutely perfect for you. When we go up to 75, the amount of options significantly decreases, but we still have a couple really good setups that we've talked about a ton on these live streams. When you go up to 85, the situation gets even worse. There's like one frame that's decent. I don't really know if there are any propellers that are really good. There are some props that are decent. Motor selection, like, good luck, right? Like, who's really done a lot of testing with 85 millimeter prop guarded setups? I've never seen it. So you're going to be on your own trying to figure out what the right KV is, what the right motor size is. And then you're going to have a ton of duct in view because the frame is like gigantic, and in order to have the weight balanced on all four motors, your camera is going to be relatively centralized. And so, yeah, 85 mil just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially with how good 75 is. So, in my opinion, and we will be testing this as soon as my O4 Lite, I'm going to keep calling it, arrives, and I figure out what to do in terms of a build. Yeah, I'll have more info for you soon. The Walksnail 2S 75 is a 6-gram payload, and it flies awesome, and the runtime is great. So an extra 4 grams should be totally fine. A little bit less power to weight ratio, a little bit less efficient runtime. I think we'll be completely fine. I have this thing motor limited down to like 80%, I think. And so I'll just bump that up to 85 or 90%, and then I'll maintain my power to weight ratio. Yes, the runtime will go down a little bit for sure, but that's a sacrifice that we make with tiny little lightweight rigs, right? Buy more batteries. Going up to 85, yes, it's going to get you a little bit of efficiency back, but the other negatives are, I think, going to be too much. I think this is going to be the way to go. If you want more runtime, you run the 450 mAh 2S batteries. If you want better flight performance, you run the 2S BT 3.0 300 mAh TinyWhoop batteries when they come back in stock. Or you can do a double pigtail and run double 300 mAh BT 2.0 batteries. That's also a really good way to do it. That's the way that I built the tiny lifters way back when. And so, yeah. The tiny lifters are where a lot of my 2S payload, 2S rigs with heavy payload knowledge comes from. And I built those tiny lifters, I think it's been over 2 years now. And then much more recently, for like the last 6 months of 2024, basically, I've had the 2S Walksnail rig with a 6-gram payload, and now more recently 2S analog rigs with like kind of no payload, right? And so I'm probably more dialed on 2S TinyWhoops carrying weight than anybody else in the FPV world. It's like it's a super specific thing, which is why, right? Like, this is not me like boasting at how great I am. It's more me saying like, I'm the crazy one that spent more time than anyone on these weird builds. But it's coming in super handy because this little O4 lite air unit is a 10-gram payload. The tiny lifters, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, I have 2 of these, but this is the tiny lifter. This was designed way back when to carry, initially this was designed to carry the Insta360 Go 1, they just called it the Insta360 Go, which was a 19-gram payload. And then when the Insta360 Go 2 came out, that was a 26-gram payload. So this was R&D'd to death. I tested a ton of different motors, a ton of different ways of mounting it, a ton of different propellers, different battery setups, and the final sort of formula that I settled on was RC and Power 1002. At the time, I did their lower KV motors, which were, what are they, 14,000, I think, right? I wish they made the text smaller, so even with a 5x magnifying loop, I can't read them. 14,000, yep. So 1002, 14,000 kV motors at 100% motor limiting. Nowadays, and just like in general, if you're going to get these RC and Power 1002s, they're a great motor, get them in 19,000 kV and then just motor limit them down a little bit in Betaflight in the PIDs tab. That way, if you want more power, you can turn the power up. At 14,000 kV, they have just barely enough for this to fly like a lifter. The name Tiny Lifter came from the fact that this thing doesn't fly all that great. Nowadays, lifters fly a lot better because they've dialed in the propeller motor combos. But 2 years ago, when I was really going hard on this, the lifters kind of flew like shit. And this kind of flies like shit. But it's carrying 26 grams, right? Like, that is a ton of payload for a 75 millimeter rig, right? And so that's kind of where a lot of that testing started. I have 2 of these. The other one is on BetaFPV 1102 motors, which are 14 or 15,000 kV as well. No, I'm sorry. They're 18,000 kV, and then I have them motor limited down to, I think, 80%. Either motor flies really, really well. I can't necessarily decide between the 1002s and the 1102s. They're super similar. The long and short is the 1102s are a little bit heavier, but they've got a little bit more stator volume, so you get a little bit more power. With this build and having such a heavy payload, I was really trying to shave every single gram that I possibly could, and I was blown away at what a good job these 1002s did. So you really can't go wrong. If you're buying a bunch of parts to do one of these 2S builds, and the website that you're buying the parts from has the 1002s in stock or sells the 1002s but not the 1102s, get the 1002s. If they sell the BetaFPV 1102s but not the 1002s, get the, you know what I'm saying? Like, most will not notice a difference. Even with a 26 gram payload, I can barely notice a difference between the 10 and the 1102s. Now that I've done more testing on like these analog setups and the Walksnail setups, I can kind of tell the difference between the 1102s and the 1002s, and it's just that the 1102s are a little bit heavier and make a little bit more power. The 1002s are a little bit lighter, a little bit less power, a little bit better runtime. The 1102s, since they're making more power, they're going to eat up more battery, and they're heavier, so you're going to get a little bit less runtime. like I said, though, can't go wrong with either one. They're both a fantastic choice. And, you know, most people won't really notice the difference, to be totally honest with you. Which is a good thing. That means they're both really good. You know what I mean? So yeah, let's dive into. I'm really tempted to get caught up on chat, but let's jump into some O4 stuff. We can cover most of it pretty quick. Again, watch. I'm gonna drop the link again into chat. Watch Chris Rosser's video. It is amazing. He hits all the bases. He did a phenomenal job. This is the Pro full-size O4 Air unit. The highlights here, so 155 degrees field of view, that's what we're totally used to. That's pretty much what all of our FPV cams, not all, but most of our FPV cams and most HD action cameras film at, right? 155 is like the number. So totally standard FOV that you'll be used to and whatever, nothing to really talk about there. The really cool thing about the O4 Air Unit Pro, in my opinion, is that we get 4K 4:3 all the way up to 60 frames a second. What that basically means is that for full-blown, like, set life, you can use this thing instead of a GoPro Hero 12, 13, whatever. We're going to talk about the Action 5, the DJI Action 5 in a minute. But basically this just means that you can fly this thing professionally without anybody bitching and moaning. In 16:9, it goes all the way up to 120 frames a second, which is amazing. That is so good. So yeah, that's really all I want. And 130 megabits per second bit rate. It is every bit as good as a GoPro Hero 12. You can sit there and tear these two apart and say like, oh, it's a little too sharp. The colors are a little bit different. That's stuff that if you fly professionally with it and you either edit it yourself or you hand it off to somebody to edit, they can fix and post. The end. This is basically the exact same thing that's in the Avata 2. And the Avata 2 is being used on professional film sets all over the place. And nobody's bitching about the quality. And so the days of needing to carry an external action camera are kind of gone. Admittedly, so Potato Jet did a review where he compared it to the brand new DJI Action 5, which has phenomenal low light performance. And yes, the DJI Action 5 does a little bit better in super low light situations. And so you can still maybe kind of sort of argue that every once in a while to be the best possible cinematic FPV pilot, you're gonna do a CineWhoop build or a 5-inch build or whatever with this built in, and in 98% of situations, if you're dead cat, if your props are out of view, or if it's a CineWhoop, this is gonna get the job done, and you can take advantage of 120 to 130 less grams on your rig, which is huge. That's going to give you a bunch more runtime, a bunch more agility, a bunch more ability to shoot tiny little gaps. But you should have a way of mounting. You should also have an Action 5, a DJI Action 5, and a way of mounting it. So that if you're flying deep into Blue Hour, you can slap that thing on top, put a bigger battery on there if you've moved to a smaller battery since your all-up weight has come down so much. And there you go. If you want to be completely insane, you could argue that you should have two separate builds. You should have one build with the O4 Air unit, totally optimized for just that all-up weight with batteries that are the perfect size for that, as light as possible. And then another build with In my opinion, old school DJI, because it's the lightest weight option and it's phenomenal in low light, right? And then a TPU Action 5 mount on top. You know, you want to have redundancy. You want to have multiple builds anyway. If you just show up to any kind of like a professional thing with just one single rig, you're insane. There's a saying in the video world, 2 is 1 and 1 is none, meaning one is none, meaning you show up with that one rig and inevitably it's going to catch on fire as soon as you plug power in, or on the ride over it's going to magically stop working, right? This is FPV. This is the FPV experience. And so that's where that saying comes from. In any sort of professional setting, if you don't show up with 2 of something, knowing that one of those 2 is going to catch on fire, you're just not professional, basically. Like, sorry if that's you, but that's just the truth. That is a hard truth that you need to be told. If you didn't already know that, I'm happy to tell you that, even if you're pissed and you now click off and say, what a jerk. It's the truth. It's the truth. You have to have redundancy. You have to have at least 2 of pretty much everything. I'm very uncomfortable when I fly places and my flight bag only has enough room for 1 transmitter. The fact that I only bring 1 single transmitter makes me super nervous, because 2 is 1 and 1 is none. Transmitters are pretty damn durable / reliable. Christ, I've been... Where is it? No, it's down there now. This is all torn apart because of the LED light strip fiasco, but I used this transmitter for over 8 years, and it never once let me down. One of the reasons that I don't stay on this, like, buy the brand new transmitter every time it comes out train, is because reliability is the #1 thing, and these QX7s have been outrageously reliable. And they also fit my big, long, gangly hands really, really well. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do about my professional gear setup here. I do have the One O4 Pro coming, and that is going to be going into the Cinesplore 2 that I kind of paused on the build because I had a funny feeling that I might end up wanting to put O4 into it. It's only a couple of extra grams. Like, I already have the TPU, their Hero 12 mounts, but at some point here I need to switch. Look, there is no reason for a Hero 12 at this point. Like, I got it because my Hero 10 warranty was about to run out, and the Action 5 had just come out, but I couldn't get it in the store, and I had a gig coming up, and so I got the Hero 12 to just kind of get me by, and I got, you know, the warranty on it. At this point, there's no real reason for the Hero 12. The O4 Air Unit Pro gives you the same performance. The DJI Action 5, hands down, gives you better low light performance. So it still does kind of make sense to have an Action 5 and a way of mounting it. Whether you do that on the same rig or a different rig, that's kind of on you. The low light performance of O4 is damn good, but O4 is heavier than old school Vistas, and the low light performance is not quite as good. So having a CineWhoop with old school Vista is going to get you that better low light performance, and then you can put the Action 5 on top. What you don't get from the old school Vistas is the unbelievable link quality that the O4 gives you. I've been flying Vistas on set for over 3 years, and I have never once had a scenario where I ran out of range. Might I have done a different shot once or twice, maybe, if I had additional range, I guess. But I cannot remember a time where, you know, like when you're on set using these things professionally, you're usually like pretty close. You know, it's a set. There's like shitloads of people. There's camera operators. There's gaffers. There's gonna be a place that you can stand most of the time where range is not an issue. Every once in a while, could there be like an unbelievable scenario where like having a ton of range would be a benefit? Yeah, sure. That's why you have 2 rigs. That's why you have one rig with the O4 Air Unit Pro. That's got all the range in the world. And then if you're flying super, and look, if you're flying super low light, you should not be flying all the way to the ends of your range anyway, right? Like, the FAA says you need to be close enough that you have line of sight, and that's not going to be super far away, right? So the only scenario where you might get caught out would be when you want to really push range in super low light. And to be honest, all you need to have is a 3D printed mount for the Action 5 for your O4 Air Unit Pro rig, right? In my case, the Cinesplorer 2. And so you throw that TPU printed thing in your bag, and you're covered all across the board. But it is wild that we can now have a built-in FPV and HD setup that gives us GoPro Hero 12 quality, ass loads of range. It's going to let us save 100. Well, so we're going to save the 120 grams or whatever these action cameras weigh. The O4 Air unit is a little bit heavier, right? The camera's a little bit bigger for the bigger sensor. I mean, Christ, speaking of the sensor, the sensor in the O4 Air Unit Pro is bigger than the GoPro Hero 12. But the Hero 12 is still an incredible camera. So this is crazy, dude. The performance of the O4 Air Unit Pro is wild. We knew it was going to be wild because we kind of knew it was what's in the Avata 2. But yeah, it's great that it's actually this good. Chris did an incredible little comparison here of the O4 versus... where does he put the things on screen? Come on. There it is. DJI O3 Walksnail Moon Light, GoPro Hero 12 Black, DJI O4 Pro. This is fantastic. One of the many reasons you need to watch his review here. And now this is the little tiny 10 gram air unit, the DJI O4 Lite, which is what I think they should have called it. And look at that. There's the FOV, 117.6. Very narrow FOV, all things considered. Don't mind the screaming. That is our 14-year-old. She has no ability to play video games without sounding like she's being stabbed in the head. The video resolution, everything is all of the specs are reined in. Of course, you know, you go from a giant sensor, a big old heat sink, down to a single 25 by 25 board. But these specs are all significantly better than the best that we've had, which has been the Walksnail Avatar, which is still really, really good. 4K, unbelievable. 4K 4:3, all the way up to 60 frames a second. 4K 16:9, also up to 60 frames a second. 1080 4:3 or 16:9, all the way up to 120 frames a second. That is so cool. I can't wait to chase the little RC drift cars at 120 frames a second. That should be really, really fun. Admittedly, it is going to be hard to chase them with a 2S 75mm rig. This is not a Walksnail killer. This little 65mm 1S Walksnail Lite rig is still going to be the main way that I chase RC drift cars. The difference in 6 grams versus 10 grams on something this small is mega. When I add 1 gram to these little rigs that I chase the RC drift cars with, that happens when I change the cameras, and that happened a bunch when Timmons and I were farting around with the Batwing mounts. I can tell the difference. And so adding 4 grams to this thing is a bit much. It's also going to completely grenade all the things we talked about earlier. It's going to grenade the runtime. And so I don't know if I'm going to do a 1S O4 Lite setup. I'm pretty happy with this in terms of the image quality. So yeah, I'm not sure. I probably will. When the new Walksnail, when the new Beta FPV AIO comes out, that has a BEC on board, they're coming out with a 3-in-1, right? Flight controller, ESC receiver, AIO that is specifically designed to work with HD VTXs, let's say, but you know the timing is right on top of the O4 air unit. And so when that comes out, I will see if they want to send me one. They've been pretty good about sending me stuff lately. Once I have it, I'll be super curious. And I'll either buy another one of the O4 lights or pull it out of the 2S build that I will hopefully have done by then. And I'll almost certainly take a look, but I don't know, man. The extra 6 grams of Walksnail really kills the performance of these little things to chase those little RC drift cars. The analog versions of these that I have, it's night and day. And like, so yeah, we'll see. I'll probably screw around with it, but I think this is it for chasing those guys with HD. I think the Walksnail Avatar is the way to go. The extra 6 grams are for real noticeable, but 1080 60 frames, it just looks so good, right? I've got a couple of edits here on the channel that I've done with these guys in it, and it's just wild. Sure, going up to 4K would be awesome, but the flight performance of analog chasing the RC drift cars is incredible. I can drop down on their door. I can get these amazing angles and shots. Once I go up to this rig, I'm significantly limited in the shots that I can get, but the quality of the video makes up for it. To then go even farther and make the flight performance even worse, but then go to 4K, like the image quality from this is good enough where you don't watch these edits. Here, let me shill myself out for a second. By the way, CiottiFPV.com is where you can support me. This is a completely crowdfunded thing that I've got going. That way when I review stuff, I can say that it sucks and nobody stops sending me stuff that I rely on. So there's this one, RC drifting like you've never seen before. Dropping the link into the chat. And then there should be another one from early days. Yeah, here it is. This is the analog one. So there are analog edits in here, and then there are digital edits in here. You'll notice when you watch the analog edits, the flying is better. The angles that I'm able to get are better because there's 6 less grams. Here it is. So what you want to do is you want to watch Analog FPV Invades RC Drifting from a year ago, and then you want to watch TinyWhoop RC Drift Chasing now with 100% more HD. These are both from a year ago. This is early days of me chasing the RC drift cars. So me as a pilot is pretty similar in skill level between these two videos. And you'll notice, yes, the image quality looks way better with the Walksnail, but I'm not able to fly as good. And then from 7 months ago, There's another analog edit here. There's actually 2 analog edits, 7 months ago, 8 months ago. So I'm a better pilot here. And then this is me at flying the best that I have. This is from 3 months ago. So keep that in mind. As I chase these guys more and more every week, I got better at it. But I think you'll still see in these analog edits that I'm able to be lower to the ground and track the subject, the rapidly moving subject, a lot faster and a lot easier. And so like the angles, the camera angles that I'm able to get on analog are significantly better than with HD. The O4 Lite is going to make that situation even worse. And I don't think that the further increase in video quality from 1080 to 4K is going to make up for it. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Certainly as a pilot, it's not going to be as much fun. The most fun that I have chasing those guys is with the analog rigs. So if you're going to go to an RC Drift's car place and chase them around, which you should, because it's the most fun that I've had in FPV for a long, long time, you should do it with analog. If you're going to try to start a YouTube channel and have fancy stuff to put up and you know, the quality of the footage starts to matter, I think it's Walksnail. If you want to jump aboard the hype train and ignore all the things that I'm telling you, O4 Lite. But yeah, always keep in mind that FPV is such a perfect example of image quality not always being the end-all be-all. How good you are as a pilot or a photographer or a videographer is top of the heap. An amazing pilot with analog will make footage that is way more watchable than a shitty pilot with 5K and all the bells and whistles. You know what I'm saying? So always keep that in mind. And as a pilot, if you've got a lighter weight rig or a more dialed in rig, that is going to make your flight footage better, especially if you're chasing a subject that moves around a lot. This here is a comparison of the O4 air unit Lite versus Walksnail Nano V3, which is a slightly different camera. I wish that he'd tested it with the Walksnail Lite setup. Because this Walksnail Nano camera is significantly heavier, and the advantage of Walksnail is the light setup with the ultralight camera at 6 grams all up. So kind of annoying that he didn't test that. I don't know. This is a Vista with a Nebula Nano, which is an interesting test because this is super heavy. So this is a super heavy setup down here that's like kind of old, right? Old school Vista stuff. So I don't necessarily understand why this is in the test, but I guess he had it laying around, and you know, I'm sure. And so what I notice here is that the field of view. Okay, so let me give you guys a bit of a disclaimer on field of view. There is in the professional camera world, there is standardization, and there is a correct way of measuring field of view. So if you buy any half-decent quality camera and they tell you what the field of view is, and that, so like let's say you buy a half-decent camera, Canon camera, and then you're comparing that to a half-decent Fuji camera. If they tell you what the field of view is on each one of those, it's correct. And you can compare those two cameras from the spec sheet on the field of view. When it comes to FPV, as with many things, there is little to no standardization. So if you look at a DJI camera field of view, and then you look at a Walksnail camera field of view, and then you look at a RunCam camera field of view, it doesn't matter. None of these guys are using any standardized testing of field of view. And so when this DJI O4 air unit says 117 degrees of field of view, and then let's actually look up what the Walksnail says for their field of view. It doesn't matter. And this is a perfect example of that. So if you look at like the Walksnail camera is rotated to the right a little bit. So, like, look at this building here. Look at where this building is in the frame here, and then here's that same building in this frame. But this Walksnail camera is pivoted to the right a little bit because, look, this big bush, and then you're catching a little bit of this secondary bush. On the O4, you're just looking at this big bush. So the Walksnail camera is pointed to the right a little bit, which explains why this building is farther to the left in the frame than this. But, look, this on the O4, there's a bunch more field of view to the left of this building. On the Walksnail, there's a bunch more field of view to the right of this big bush. It does not look like there's much of a difference in field of view between these two. And that's a good thing, because 117 field of view is really narrow. Like, to the point where that would kind of be hard to fly. I don't think it's actually 117 field of view. It looks to be roughly the same field of view as Walksnail. So let's just take a look. Walksnail Nano FOV. Let's see what they say for their FOV. I want to say that they claim it to be like normal, like 160, 155, 160. I wish I hadn't closed that window, but maybe he was testing this camera. But regardless, all of the Walksnail stuff has roughly the same. Yeah, see, look, 160 field of view. So either it's impossible to really know who's lying. They're not lying. They're just measuring field of view in different ways. One of the easiest ways to screw up field of view is that when you see just one number for field of view, you immediately know that something is amiss. There's horizontal field of view. There should always be 3 numbers. There should be horizontal field of view, there should be vertical field of view, and then there should be diagonal field of view. And there should kind of actually be 6 numbers, because they should be giving you field of view for 4x3 and also for 16x9. And so that's a perfect example of why it's just absolutely all over the place. But now you know that, and thankfully Chris did this actual side by side so that we can see that this smaller field of view on the O4 Lite is actually not much different than anybody else, really, right? Like, if it was, I mean, when you look at this frame, actually, like, you look where that smokestack is, right? The smokestack is basically in the same spot for all 3 of these. We know that the vista field of view is pretty wide, so smokestack on the right side of the frame is basically in the same place with all 3 of these. And then if you look at the left side of the frame, you can kind of see this little angle on the building. It's roughly in the same spot on all 3 of these. So I don't think that, even though I don't know why they're speccing out such a small field of view, to be completely honest. I get the feeling that they're measuring it in some kind of a weird way. But I wish that their field of view was 155. If they're saying that the field of view is 117 at the same time that they're releasing the O4 Pro Air unit that says that the field of view is 155, I'm sure that the lightweight one has less field of view than 155, which I don't love, but it looks like the other options are roughly the same field of view, so it's not that big of a deal, right? When I get mine, I will absolutely put it on the bench here and point it at the toolbox like we do with all of these cameras to take a quick look at the field of view. And I'll do the same thing with Walksnail, and we'll take a bit of a closer look. But the FOV is one of the things that kind of creeps me out the most about it. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. Chris did an amazing section here on FOV, comparing like the wide versus the normal, all that good stuff. He then tests latency. The race mode 100 frame per second latency is really low. Super impressive how low that they got that. None of us are really racers in here, but if you put an action camera on top of your rig that has O4 in it, you can run race mode and get nice low latency. That's pretty cool. I dig that. I think that's going to be the least used feature, though, because if you're putting O4 into a build, you're putting it in there to use the HD. Specifically building a rig with O4 to then also carry an action camera is pretty silly. I don't get why you would do that. At some point, the action cameras will get better. Maybe the GoPro Hero 14 actually has a bigger sensor for a change. But like, the video quality coming out of the O4 is really good. It's really, 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 really good. The days of needing to carry an action camera are long gone. Unless there's a pretty specific kind of scenario. The latency of it in the, 4K and whatnot is a little bit higher than O3, to be expected. It's a little bit better quality, but with digital, it's pretty kind of par for the course. Chris did a fantastic, massive chart here with the latencies of like all the things. And it's not, look, it's comparable to O3, which is wild. Much better low light performance than O3, comparable latency, better range than O3. There's, other than cost, there's really no, and like cost as in like you're going to be able to buy O3s used because everybody's going to be ditching them to get O4. There's not a lot of reason to go O3 at this point. There was one more thing that I kind of wanted to hit on from Chris's video. The output power is, of course, awesome. Look, like the range on O4 is outrageous. Yeah, he calls out that it's not really suitable for 1S without a step up. Maybe that was it. Maybe that was it. Again, I'm going to drop the link one more time in the chat. Go watch Chris's video. He did an amazing job. Like I said earlier, I also did watch... I watched a whole bunch of stuff on it over the last 2 days. Potato Jet's video has a fantastic comparison of O4 versus the best of the action cameras, which is the DJI Action 5. And it is really close to being as good. Not quite. If you're super sensitive, especially to like low light performance, the DJI Action 5 is a little bit better. You could argue that it has just a tiny little bit more detail, but dragging around 120 plus grams of action camera kills your flight performance, your flight times, and those two things, for the way that we use FPV, are more important than the tiny, 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 tiny increase in quality that you get dragging around that 120 gram camera. If the action camera, if the next generation of action cameras gets significantly better, maybe there's a reason to carry them around again. But boy, oh boy, is it going to be nice to drop that weight and have something that flies better for longer. Also, that's more durable, right? I didn't even think about that until just this second. Dragging around that action cam and then smashing into things. You've got to have a few of those action cams. You're going to break them. Having your camera and VTX completely enclosed in carbon fiber, you've now got something that, like, on set, you can slam, and it's probably not going to blow up. You should still have multiple rigs, right? But that's pretty great from a durability standpoint. I gotta get caught up on... Oh my god, somebody did a $50 super chat. Who did that? I'm so sorry that I missed it. Supercell. Dude, I haven't seen you in a while. Thank you so much, man. $49.99 super chat. He says, keep it up, bro. I will, man. Thank you so much, brother. Very, very cool. I'm not gonna read out names in chat. I'm just gonna hit the folks that have tagged me so far to get caught up on chat. Cole Powers says... Teddy could use a good tailbone massage. Teddy got to see his first snow today. He took one step down. He looked at it and sniffed it and went, nope. He came back inside. And then Maggie, it's on my Instagram and stories. And then Maggie and I were like, come on, no, you got to go pee. Go out and go pee, buddy. And he got down and he down the stairs and he warmed up to it. I didn't mean for that to be a pun. But he warmed up to the snow pretty quick and ran around the yard, went up into his tree house, and came back inside. So Teddy Spaghetti knows what snow is now. We Bleed FPV is in house. He says, hey, Gangly Gang, good evening, CiottiFPV. Happy Friday. Indeed it is. Morton Upshot says, forgive me. I need to jump ship to watch my Buckeyes play the foosball in a few minutes. I'm sure Morton's already gone. Glad he made it for a little bit. Bagzilla says, my man, what's up? I can't wait to fly my O4 with the Vannystyle O4 cam plates. Very cool. Yeah, most frames. Oh, that's something I wanted to talk about. The Quadmulla. It appears that Quadmulla has different TPU printable plates to mount the O4. So it looks like those frames are ready to go. Look, the O4 camera to house the bigger sensor is much larger, and so most frames will not work with the O4 setup right now. I'm sure all the frame designers have been scrambling and continue to scramble to figure out how to make the damn thing fit in their frames. I'm sure some of them will force you to buy a whole new frame, which is kind of insane, but you know, hey, capitalism. The AOS frames from Chris Rosser, you can just print a different TPU insert that works with the camera cage. So it looks like all of the current generation, I think they're like on V5, if I'm not mistaken, AOS frames. It's an easy fit. It's an easy fix to get them to get the new setup in there. There was one more, I forget what it was. The Vannystyle, it sounds like there's going to be new cam plates. In chat, help me out. Type the frames into chat that you know are currently adaptable to use the O4, because it's also a totally different bolt pattern on the camera, which is kind of obnoxious, but when I really thought about that, I bet you that's because of the bigger sensor. It's very easy to go, oh, DJI changed that to screw us all over. Why would they do that? DJI doesn't sell frames. There's no reason for them to change the bolt pattern so that we have to buy new frames. They're not in bed with any of these frame manufacturers. There's no reason for them to change the bolt pattern. It probably makes their lives harder. I bet you when the sensor got bigger, the threading for the current bolt holes was interfering with the bigger sensor. And so I bet you they had to move the mount holes up to get them out of the way of the sensor. I bet you it's a packaging problem. But it's annoying for us because most frames are not going to work with it. But in the chat, type whatever frames that you've seen people get the O4 into so that we have a little bit of a better list as to today what frames you can buy with an O4 and have it. You know, you're probably going to have to print something. But yeah, there you go. Help me out, Chad. LOL the Kiddison says, do you think the Micro V will be a good replacement O4 lite antenna? Yeah, for sure. The Micro V is a phenomenal ultra lightweight antenna. And the O4 Lite comes with a shitty little whip antenna, which, I mean, the whip antennas work totally fine, but the Micro V is going to work better than the whip antennas because it has a proper 120 degree kind of setup versus the ground plane setup that the whip antennas have. So yeah, Micro V will be a great little replacement antenna. I have like 40 Micro Vs waiting for me at the post office. I just got to go pick them up. So, and those are slightly customized Micro Vs. They're a little bit shorter. I think they're 46 millimeters, and they've got a little bit of extra shrink wrap on the head of the antenna to make it a little bit more durable. So those will be available over on my Etsy store, which is linked on CiottiFPV.com, probably like Monday or Tuesday next week. Willie Summit says, have you ever heard of the JME MCE Ruibit F4 AIO? I have not. I'm just barely curious enough to type it into Google. Oh, okay, so JHE MCU. I've had mixed results with JHE MCU. I typically don't talk much about stuff that I haven't personally like smashed a bunch to see if it holds up or not. So yeah, there's not a whole lot that I can really say about this. But I've had one or two things from JHE MCU that kind of held up half decent. It looks like it's 1S and 2S. That's kind of nice. 12 amp FETs. That's kind of cool. Does it have a receiver built in? Doesn't look like it has a receiver built in because there's no... Doesn't look like it has a VTX built in either. What's the point of this AIO? You're going to have to run an external VTX and an external receiver. That's pretty silly. Yeah, I don't really understand. I don't understand this style of AIO in general. If you're going to build an AIO that doesn't have a receiver or a VTX, it should be 2S to 4S. On a 1S rig, it's completely insane to put an external VTX and an external receiver. 1S rigs need to be ultra lightweight. You've now made it not ultra lightweight. So like an AIO like this that doesn't have either one of those things, you're only really going to use it on like a heavier rig, so it needs to go up 3S or 4S. So yeah, don't buy this. There are plenty of AIOs that have either a receiver on board or a VTX on board or both that are going to be a better choice than this. So yeah, I would not recommend you buy that. It's just from like a features standpoint, that just kind of fails. Yeah, you're going to end up building a rig that's heavier than it needs to be for 1S or 2S. Don't do it. Render says, I did that with my 45 amp AIO, and it took me 45 minutes to get the solder off the pins of the processor, and it fried my ELRS receiver, in reference to a flicking solder and having it ruin an AIO. I was not being careful enough on the stream the other day. I was in a hurry, and you can't be in a hurry with these AIOs. Dronzen says, I think that's exactly what happened. When you cleared the solder, I swore I saw it fly towards the AIO, but I wasn't near my phone to message. When you flick a solder ball, when you clear solder off of something, and you flick it off rather than using solder wick the way that you should, you need to find that solder blob. I did find a solder blob, but sometimes when you do that, it'll flick a couple. And I was in a hurry. It was the end of the stream. I was like, what are the chances? And apparently the chances were pretty good. Cheatonian says, TinyWhoop has the version 2.2 of that BetaFPV 12 amp board in stock. You can always solder to that. Yeah, the 2.2 version of the board has the OSD chip on it, and it's a lot older, so I'm going to really try to find the version 3 to get this thing back. But it's good that they have that version 2.2. If I have to, I can snag one of those. Bagzilla says, BetaFPV just came out with the Matrix 3-in-1 for the new O4. They say they're also coming out with a Matrix 4-in-1 with an OSG chip for the Pro 32 Nano. Can't wait. The Matrix 3-in-1 is 1S only, though. And I really do not recommend that you build a 1S O4 air unit setup. Oh, come on, Canon! Hold on. The new version of EOS webcam utility is horrible. And there are tons of people struggling, as I am. Although lately it's only been happening like once per live stream, which is not that bad. But I don't know. It's Canon. They are one of the, if not the biggest camera manufacturer in the world. And they force you to run their stupid-ass software when you use their cameras for live streaming. And so it's pretty shameful that they're not... that they don't have software that functions better than this. So don't blame me. Blame Canon. They do make great cameras, though. I've been using their DSLRs for almost 20 years now. Oh, wow, more than 20 years now. Because I started running a film digital a Canon film digital SLR back in college when I started to get into photography. Willie Summit says, have you heard of the... so we just talked about that. He's asking again. Render says, that sounds like a bad battery. That's crazy. Nope, it's just cold. Tiny little MEH batteries in the colds are a nightmare. Everyday with Bruno says, I couldn't get a signal at all today. I don't know if it was the cold or what. Cold shouldn't have to do with it, but snow is made of water, and water blocks RF really, really well. So, yeah, flying in the snow, you're going to get... but, I mean, that's only when you put that water between your the antennas on your goggles and the quad. Right, so if you're just flying in open air with little snowflakes, it shouldn't have anything to do with it. But if you fly behind a tree that's got a bunch of snow in it, right, yeah, that's going to be bad. Just like after it rains and the leaves in the trees absorb a bunch of water, if it's been dry and you fly behind a tree in your yard, you'll get noticeably better signal strength than after it's rained. It's kind of cool. Maybe not just one tree. Oh, God, here we go. YouTube might bomb. That's usually a sign that YouTube's about to bomb as well. Maybe not just one tree, but like a couple trees. If you go like a couple trees deep and it's rained, the signal strength goes to absolute hell versus if it's been dry for a while. Kind of cool. Mikhail says, can't wait to see the low light performance in person. Yeah, me too. Me too. The bigger sensor in the O4 is where they're getting a lot of the better low light performance. One of the big reasons that I didn't do the O3 setup is the low light performance was way worse than the Vistas. And for an FPV camera to not have good low light performance, I don't love that. So yeah, I'm very glad that I skipped O3 almost entirely, because this O4 system is... If the O4 system is a killer of anything, it's an O3 killer. It's not a Walksnail killer. Walksnail still has the lightweight advantage, and they've got like different options, right? O4 is just like these two things and that's it. Walksnail has a lot of different options, and it's also lighter weight. Moss1 says, are the VCI O702 motors any good for 65? They're all out of Beta FPV O702. The VCI motors are very similar to the Beta FPV motors. I don't like the Beta FPV motors. It's not that I don't like them. It's just that I like the Happy Model motors a lot better. So I don't have any of the VCI motors anymore. I also don't have any Beta FPV motors other than the ones that have been on the bind and flies that they've sent me. So yeah, I don't necessarily recommend the VCI or the Beta FPV motors. I think the Happy Model motors are better. There's more options. You can get 1.5mm motor shafts. But if you were gonna buy Beta FPV motors, the VCI motors will slot right in and be pretty much exactly the same. It has been my experience with them. Morton Upshot says, if the woman likes fires, deal with fires, of course. Keep Maggie happy and you'll be happy. Yep, happy wife, happy life. Not that we're married, but yeah. Ray's FPV says, hey man, hope you're doing well. I am indeed. Cheetonian says, make sure your chimney is clean. Just had a house fire near me from a chimney fire. Yeah, we had a chimney sweep come out last year and inspect everything, and he was happy with it. And the chimney is capped. And we also, we have to, the column, our chimney is tall enough where the column of cold air in there is too much for us to just light a fire. Trick that my dad showed me. The house that I grew up in had a fireplace in the basement, and it was kind of the same deal. The chimney was tall enough where, and it's funny, I didn't remember my dad doing this until he told me that I needed to do it. Over the Christmas break, I was like, hey Dad, I tried to light a fire in our fire. We got to have a chimney guy come out again this year because we tried to light a fire even with the flue open and all the smoke came into the house. And he told me, like, don't you remember, I used to have to twist up a piece of newspaper, light it on fire, and hold it up into the chimney to displace that big, tall column of cold air. And I was like, I do remember you doing that. And sure enough, once we did that, it was fine. We didn't have we canceled the chimney people. And so in doing that, you catch if there's a clog, right? Like if you I guess that's probably a good safety thing for everybody with a fireplace, right? Even if you have a shorter chimney, a really great way to make sure you don't light your house on fire is to just twist up a piece of newspaper, light it on fire, and you hold it like up there. And if the smoke comes back into the house, it's clogged. Don't light logs on fire at that point, right? So yeah, maybe that's a good safety thing. But we have to do it here for this chimney to displace that column of cold air. Cheetonian says, thoughts on BetaFPV deciding to put a step-up regulator on a 12-amp 3-in-1 intended for O4 instead of supporting 2S. Unbelievable. Yeah, I don't love it, but they're all aboard the hype. Here's what I'll say. Instead of being mean and saying they're all aboard the hype train, that AIO is significantly shrunken down, right? They're making that AIO as lightweight as they possibly can, and that's probably why it's only 1S. And so, great, we've got an option for 1S. It's kind of silly to do a 1S build with a 10-gram payload, but hey, it's something that exists. We've got AIOs that are 2S capable that are set up for HD. So, yeah, that's fine. It's as mad as I want to get about it. It's something that, yeah, wouldn't exist otherwise. I think YouTube's about to shit the bed. I can't even scroll in chat at this point. Oh, nope, there it goes. Thrash FPV says, do you recommend buying the O4 for future use when it's not for months and months? What? Cinematic work. I'm worried. Oh. Thrash is worried about them going out of stock forever. The specs on the O4 are so good. I had no real plans of buying them, either one of them, and I bought both of them. Yeah, you should get at least one of each, I think. They're just, it's really good. And they've had them in the Avata 2. They've had the same kind of thing in the Avata 2 and the Neo, and that's been out in the world for a while. So in theory, there won't be any bullshit with it, and yeah. I bought them, and I wasn't planning on it. Come on, YouTube! Let me scroll in the chat. Let me do my job that you... Oh, my God. I'm going to try my best here. Hey! Thank you for being useless, YouTube, and shitting the bed, finally. Good God, man. Oh, I just lost a ton of chat messages. I'm sorry, guys. There's not... This is why I don't usually front load the chat with the topic of the live stream. This is why I usually get caught up on the Q&A as early as I possibly can, because YouTube is just incredibly unstable. I'm super sorry. I just lost a ton of your guys' messages. If it's not something that I've already talked about, feel free to tag me again. But yeah, this is 100% YouTube's fault. They have significantly... I don't know what they're doing. Their streaming used to be relatively stable, and in the last 6 months, it's become anything but stable, and it's really, really bad at this point. I'm sure they're doing it to make more money because capitalism. Louis said, so the oldest message that I have access to now is from 814, which is Louis. He says, so I think the main reason DJI even considered having a light VTX is due to the increasing regulation on 250 grams. That's true. I just assumed that it was like, well, we have it from the Neo. We might as well get a couple of dollars from these FPV idiots. They saw the way to the market was headed and realized they were behind. Agree? I would say that maybe that has something to do with it, but in my opinion, they built these two systems into the Avata 2 and the Neo, and they know that they can make a couple dollars from FPV people. I think it's less making money from us and more getting marketing material from us, right? And so it's a win-win, right? All they have to do is put a little case around the outside of it. Although the O4 Pro case looks pretty identical to what's in the front of the Avata 2, so maybe they didn't even need to make. They certainly needed to make a case to go around the VTX, but like, you know, what could that have possibly cost them? I really do think it was at this point for them, they're building drones and making tons of money off of drones, and then it's like, hey, how can we get some pretty much free marketing? Pull the video system out of the drone, put a case around it, and not very many FPV people compared to the number of people buying our drones in Best Buy will snag it and make unbelievable marketing material for us that will then sell us more Avata 2s and Neos, right? That's my opinion. I could be totally wrong. What you're saying makes total sense, Louis. But yeah, I think it was like they built this for the Neo, and they were just like, hey, let's do the same thing that we did with the Avatas for years and years. Striker says, just got an H11 Mini. Might still go to O4 and use it as a handy cam. I could go for like 1800 mAh 6S in the future, 5-inch build then. I don't even know what's an H11 Mini. I don't even know what that is. Oh, Hero 11. Gotcha. Raise FPV says Tank 2 and Tank 2S. That's right. Yep. Good call. One of the other videos I watched is Bubby's, which was, he's like, yes, the roads were empty. I guess he did this in the middle of the night, but it was awful sketchy. He was like blasting an open propped rig around like some downtown area. It felt a little sketchy. Yes, it was only a 3.5-inch rig, but the tank is an awful heavy 3.5-inch rig, so it was almost certainly like 300 plus grams. I'd love to see that he was doing it when there was only like one or two other cars on the road, but felt a little sketchy to be flying an open prop rig. But hey, you know, young folks, YOLO, it'll be fine. B-Mud Skipper says length, width, height, camera module, 25. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, B-Mud Skipper. Scotty Scott says Fly High FPV is designing prints for the Arma 10 Marmot, Nuvia, plus others. Interesting. I'm not an Arma 10 fan, but good to have options. B-Mud Skipper says, here we go. That is the dimensions of the O4 Pro camera, non-naked. And it's still the same 20mm width, and most people are mounting the cam with a single screw for now. Oh, boy. But the angle is flat. Yeah, the O4 Pro camera is a big boy. The light camera doesn't seem like it's that all that big, especially when you take the little case off it. It'll be interesting to see how folks mount the little tiny lightweight camera. Yeah, there we go. There's where the camera froze. Hopefully the camera wasn't frozen for too long. Martin Tanley says, hey, any input on Goku F405 2S for the O4? I think that's the AIO that's unbelievably expensive. I have zero experience with it, so I can't really I can't really speak to it. Straker says 12 amp FETs, Beta FPV. I thought they were finally getting some newer 2S AIOs. They don't need to. They already have 2S AIOs. So yeah, let me see. Hold on. Someone told me that the version 3 12 amp Beta FPV is out of stock everywhere. 12 amp V3, but I didn't have a chance to dive in and really see, which is kind of my bad on that one. Okay. Damn it. All right, so this is the one. So this will be a better search term. So it looks like Get FPV is out, which sucks, which is not a good sign. Looks like I'm not showing my screen. Sorry, guys. So GetFPV is out of stock. It looks like Beta FPV is out of stock, which is also not a great sign. Let's see where else. Oh my God, that's right. I remember. Not many people sell this AIO. Somebody earlier on said that TinyWhoop has the version 2.2, which is okay. The version 2.2 has the big old OSD chip on it, which is a total waste for HD builds. It is kind of nice because if at some point you want to go analog with it, you've got it. So, I mean, that's good. Weebleed doesn't usually come up all that well in Google search results. I don't think that they have it, though. Fuck. Let's see if AliExpress has it. Oh, boy. Why is it... Well... Race Quads? Hey! Hey! They've got it. Is that the one? 12 amp... Oh, no, this is the old one. This is the version 2.2. Which is okay. If we have to use this one, we will. Version 3 is better, but until it comes out of stock, it comes back in stock. This will absolutely work. A little bit of wasted space having this OSD chip on here, but it's still 12 amp. It's well. All right, so it says that it's 1 amp. But see, look, it also says that it's 1 to 2 amp. 1 to 2S rather, not amp. Sorry. I don't understand it. On a bunch of different websites, these Beta FPV F4 12 amp AIOs, they will say that they're 1S, but then they will also say that they're 2S. Welcome to FPV. Nothing ever makes sense, ever. I have run the version 3 of this on 2S quite a bit, and it was completely fine. So I will assume that this version 2.2, 2022 version, is also 2S. It says it right here. It also says it right here. I don't understand how everyone is so incompetent in the FPV world. It even has silk screened on the board that it's 1 to 2S. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's just, it's beyond belief how half-assed everything is in FPV still. So yeah. Martin Tanley says newer white version. What's that in reference to, brother? Ben Hawkins with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you so much, dude. He says, I'd like to set up a DJI O4 on a 2S 2-inch carbon fiber frame with 14,000 kV 1203 motors. Think it will be a good ripper. Have any canopy suggestions? Zero canopy suggestions, just because it came out yesterday. I don't know much about 2-inch, other than that you're going to have a lot of duct in view, which drives me mad. 14,000 kV is probably about right. 1203 motor might be a little big. It might be just right. It's going to depend on what like the propellers weigh. Last time I checked, most of the 2-inch propellers are pretty heavy. That's one of the major advantages to staying 1.6 inch, staying 75 millimeters motor to motor, is that we have really good propeller options. That is one of the, so yeah, that's going to be a major weak point, one of the many major weak points of 2-inch. I don't know, it's, yeah, I don't really know anybody that's like super optimized. Take a look at Sub 250 FPV on Instagram. It's not the company, it's a guy. Sub 250. All right, so it's Sub 250G FPV on Instagram. check him out. He has done the most experimenting with different 2-inch setups in terms of all up weight, frames, different motors, different propellers. And yeah, that's what you want to do. Check his stuff out. That's going to give you the best chance at figuring out if that thing is going to fly good or not. I haven't done hardly any. Any 2-inch flying that I did was like 5, 6, 7 years ago, and everything has changed since then. So yeah, check Sub 250G out. He breaks down all of the setups, and then he's got loads of flight footage, and you can hopefully find something that's relatively similar, or maybe even better, where you like the flight performance, and away you shall go. Thank you for the super chat, brother. I wish I had more personal knowledge to drop on you, but I just, the 2-inch thing, I haven't really had a reason to go up to 2-inch builds. The 1.6-inch stuff is plenty. It is, I'm assuming that a fire just got lit upstairs because it just got really cold. Boy, is it noticeable how much colder the rest of the house gets when you lit a fire in a fireplace. Holy cow. It really does pull the cold air in from every single door and window in the rest of the house. JMPFPV says, any new batteries you recommend for the TX16S? Not really. No, I don't know anything about the TX16S. I don't know what batteries it takes. But usually with transmitters, there'll only be like 1 or 2 batteries that fit in it. And so just get each of them. And you can figure out which one of those 2 that you like, and then eventually they'll die and you just get another one of the other ones. But I don't know anything about the TX16X. Like literally nothing. Alley Cat says, hey, thanks for being so awesome. Thank you for hanging out, supporting me. Matt Ertzen says, it really sucks you don't have a Pyrodrone affiliate link. Nobody does. I buy from them almost exclusively now because West Coast. Yeah, Pyrodrone killed their affiliate program, so nobody has an affiliate link. Their affiliate program now is, and I do have like a link to their current affiliate program. It's basically like, if you've not set up an account on Pyrodrone and you click my Pyrodrone affiliate link, it drives to a spot where if you set up an account, I get like a couple of Pyrodrone points that I can spend on their store next time I do an order from there, which is super helpful. I mean, that's as good as money because I do order there every once in a while. But yeah, Pyrodrone does not have a traditional affiliate program. Surge doesn't believe in it, basically. He tried it, and then I guess he lost enough money from the affiliate links and just decided that like it's not worth, the marketing isn't worth it. Which is interesting because absolutely everyone else agrees that it is worth it, other than TinyWhoop, but TinyWhoop does it for different reasons. TinyWhoop doesn't have an affiliate program because they don't want people shilling their products just to get people to click the affiliate link. They want people to talk about their products organically. And maybe that's also Surge's approach, but I don't think so from conversations that I've had with people. The HDZero says probably server load from all the dumb streams and YouTube shorts. Metalherson says, remember, you might give Armatan another look now that they're under new ownership. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the frame designs. It's mainly because they don't really have many removable arm frame designs. The Armatan frame designs are just too old. They are frame designs from 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and frames have gotten significantly better. So until they frame design has gotten significantly better. So until they update their frame designs, I have no interest. Most of their frames are solid base plate, which is just a nightmare in so many different ways. I love that they're under new management, because their old management was pretty closed-minded, but they're still selling these old ass frame designs, and they're just not as good. The frames that have come out in the last year or two are just way better, and that's not a dig on Armatan. That's everyone else getting better, right? It's a good thing that there are a lot of newer, better frames. So yeah, if they get with the times and start coming out with some frames that are better designed, using removable arms, not using quasi-isotropic carbon, then yeah, but they don't have that right now. Their designs are just old and not as good. Cheetonian says, I'm using 1 on 2S, it's fine, in reference to the version 2.2. Awesome. Cheetonian also says, have you ever met a marketing person? I've worked very closely with marketing teams. I also worked for a search engine optimization company for a couple of years, which is literally a marketing company. So yes, I've met many marketing people. James Thomas says, will that BetaFPV AIO take motor plug? What? I blew it off since no plugs, but I swear I just saw holes. What? Take motor plug. Tag me again and ask that question in a different way. The way that question reads is saying that BetaFPV AIOs, you can't use... Oh, I'm sorry. You said motor plug, not... I was reading that as battery lead. I was reading that as that you thought the AIO you couldn't hook up a battery to it. And I was like, how the motor plugs. The version 3 certainly does, because I have them on mine. I would assume that the version 2.2 does as well. What BetaFPV does is they don't put the motor plugs on there from the factory. You have to solder them on. So it kind of looks like it doesn't have motor plugs, but they come in the box. The easy way to tell is they draw a little silkscreen box around. They also like inset the holes, so it's usually pretty obvious. And so yeah, whenever you see this layout here where they've put holes inboard like this is a dead giveaway that this is set up for a motor plug that they've included in the package, and you get the unbelievable honor of soldering them on yourself. And so here's the rectangle. They silkscreen a rectangle on there so that you don't put the plug on there backwards. Although that doesn't really matter, but yeah. So yeah, you get the unbelievable delight of soldering down. It's not that bad. OmniFixo helps a ton though. JMPFPV says, thanks man, I'll do more research. Drunzen says, that means that order I placed with your link wasn't an affiliate. It's okay. Use Christmas gift cards to get some stuff. It's all good. It's all good. You guys support me in many other ways. Captain Calgary says, do you know Les Nessman Wookerp? I have no idea what that is. Is that a person, a place, or a thing? I'm typing it into Google. It's a fictional character. I do not know. Oh, WKRP. I do not. WKRP Cincinnati. I know that. I've heard of WKRP Cincinnati before. I don't know why. I do not. I do not know Les Nessman. Craig Meyer says, question about your Mobula 7 analog 75mm build. You said you're running TinyWhoop Hex 802 19,000 kV with GemFan 1610s. It looks like those motors are only rated for 1S voltage. When a motor manufacturer rates a motor for a voltage, it's total nonsense. It is giving you a rough idea of what voltage you should run on that motor, but you can quadruple the voltage and then just run a motor limit and you're totally fine. So when a motor is rated for a certain voltage, that's just pretty much nonsense. And in this case, it's total nonsense. Yeah, there is no rating that has anything to do with 1S, 2S, 3S, 4S, 5S, 6S for a motor. They should rate the motor for like an RPM window, but that would require them to do anything. It would also make it more confusing for new people. So I kind of understand why they do it, but yeah, no, the motors being rated for one voltage or another means nothing. Thrash FPV says, for concert venues or flying above around people, would 3S or 2S O4 Lite build be better? From a safety standpoint, 2S would be better because you can build it to be lighter weight. From a runtime perspective, 3S would be better. That's the only way that I can really answer that question. So yeah. James Thomas says, gotcha, thanks. You're certainly welcome. Frank Nicholas says, Les Newman of WKRP in Cincinnati, sitcom. Yeah, I've heard of it, but I don't think I've ever actually watched it. Yeah, I almost always have Band-Aids on my thumbs because I have generalized anxiety disorder, and I pick at my fingers like an actual crazy person. But hey, we're all crazy in our own ways, so by putting Band-Aids on, it prevents me from picking at my fingers. So Crownuts FPV says, what are your thoughts on BetaFPV Matrix 5-in-1 AIO G4? It's great. The rig that I flew in the snow today has it, and yeah, I've plugged and unplugged the UFL I think 10 times now, and it has not ripped off the board, which was the main problem with the BetaFPV Air AIOs. And so yeah, they've fixed the main problem. It is as heavy as the Happy Model 2G4, and so I kind of hesitate to recommend it over the 2G4 because the 2G4 is a known quantity. It is a fantastic AIO that is like absolutely ridiculously durable. So yeah, I don't know why you would buy the Matrix AIO over the 2G4 other than you're doing an order on a website that doesn't have the 2G4 in stock and it does have the Matrix in stock. You're rolling the dice though. Like the Matrix has not been around for long enough for us to know that it's like hysterically durable, and the Happy Model has. So for me, I'll stick to the 2G4s. But yeah, I mean, if you're doing an order on a site that has the Matrix, save on shipping and snag one because it seems like it's good, but you're rolling the dice a little bit. Makes sense. Craig Meyer says, regarding motor limits, where does one set that in Betaflight? Yes, in the PIDs tab. There's a, or in your, you can just go and do the stick commands to get into the OSD. But yeah, in Betaflight, it's in the PIDs tab. It's called motor limiting. It's one of the more powerful features in Betaflight that nobody takes advantage of, which drives me insane. Because building a rig and putting motors that are slightly too high of a KV on it, and then motor limiting it down, allows you to turn up the power of that rig whenever you want. And that's awesome. So yeah, do it. Get motors that are a little too high of a KV and then motor limit them down to like 80%, 85%, 90%, and you will have the ability to go stick command, more power, more power, more power, more power. Page up for power, as dyno tuners say in the motorsport world. Scotty Cut says, I bought two BetaFPV F4 V1 2 to 3S, 20 amp, $55 each. We'll let you know how they work. Thank you, dude. I'm assuming that they don't have receivers on board, which is kind of annoying. Denzel the Terrible says, don't talk about anything interesting for a few minutes. Got to go make myself a tea. Anyone else want one? It is the end of the live stream, so we're pretty much done talking about anything that's interesting. I think we covered everything. Maybe I'll fly a battery or two. JMPFPV says, what radio are you using and why? I use old-ass FR Sky QX7s, mainly because I have very long fingers and they fit my hands the best. Also because not a single feature in a transmitter that's worth anything has been introduced since the QX7 came out. I guess you could kind of sort of argue that the new transmitters that have ELRS built in, that's a thing. But like, if you wait a couple of months, something about the built-in ELRS will change, and it'll be worthless, and you'll have to do a module anyway. A transmitter that fits your hands is way more important than any kind of nonsense color screen or a row of buttons here or any other just silly thing that they've introduced since this. And so, yeah, QX7 for life. I guess it would be kind of cool to have ELRS built in, but like the Gemini, the Nomad stuff is a perfect example, right? Like all of these Jumper and all of these Radio Master transmitters that have regular old ELRS built in. If you want to go to Nomad Gemini, you got to run a goddamn module anyway. And so, you know, eventually there'll be another new version of it, right? I think there is one, maybe two transmitters now that are available that have Gemini Nomad built in. A year from now, they'll make another change to it, and you'll have to put a module in those. So the whole, like, buying a transmitter, I don't know, the whole, like, buying a new transmitter thing, I don't know. This fits my hands. I have not used any other transmitter that fits my hands better. And, you know, being able to fly as good as possible, for me personally, is the number one thing. I've got a module on this that uses the absolute newest tech. Good to go. Also, the QX7s are outrageously inexpensive. You can get them used for like 40, 50 bucks. And then you can spend that money on things that, you know, make more of an impact on your flying or your setup of gear, right? Have enough money to build a backup rig, stuff like that, is more important in my opinion than a transmitter with a color screen on it. What in the world is the color screen going to do for you? If they were putting VTXs in the transmitters that could then use the color screen as like a little portable monitor, I'd be all fucking for it. And the fact that they haven't done that yet makes me very upset. Get your shit together. Radio Master. Himmock says, Matrix versus 2G4 in terms of durability. We just talked about that. 2G4 is a known quantity. It is the most durable AIO by a long margin. Maybe the Matrix is just as durable, but there's no way to know. We haven't run it for a full year. So yeah. Also, I have a motor that its shaft is dead straight, not bent, but the stator wobbles like crazy out of the box. Anything to get it working or get new. Nope, get a new one. There's not... yeah, there's really nothing you can do. But how does the stator wobble? I think you're getting your terms mixed up. The stator doesn't move. The stator is the bottom part that's solid. I think you're confusing stator with bell. I'm assuming that the bell is wobbling and the shaft is straight, and there's nothing you can do about that. That's yeah, get you a new one. Scotty Scott says, yes, it does have Serial Elrs 9-volt back and 5-volt back. I'm not totally sure what we're talking about here. Oh, the 20 amp AIO. It has, oh my god, it has ELRS on board. Well, that's pretty cool. Yeah, definitely let us know how it is. Craig Meyer says, the YouTube auto transcript after the live is done. The transcription is incredibly useful for getting information. Aaron is quite info dense. Thank you, dude. Uriel says, I tried to fly with a big tablet, but it was a shinny. Sun problems, but yes, it would be a nice option. It's not for flying as much as it is for like bench work and just backup, right? The battery on your goggles goes dead. You pull your goggles up and you have this backup screen. Look, if you're going to put a color screen on the transmitter, the only possible reason for that is if you're going to drive a live video feed to it. There is not a single thing, there's not a single thing that the screen on your transmitter displays that is improved by having a color screen. That is 100% the hype train, the marketing, the, oh my god, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. The stuff that you have is shit. People will judge you. Right? That's my thinking. We're going to fly a battery or two, and then I'm going to wrap this up. I am hungry as hell. Speaking of QX7s, I'm going to use mine right now. And we're just going to rip around the house for a minute. Nothing too crazy. And then I go get some food. And look out the front window at the snow. There's snow outside, yo. In Georgia. In suburban Georgia. He said bourbon. Let's fly the same rig. Actually. So, the flight footage that I played from this rig was with these two batteries. These two batteries that were dead when I brought it home. Okay? Oh, nope, not this battery. Nope, not this battery either. This battery, I flew out front. Not this battery. This battery was dead when I... Not this battery. This battery was dead. There it is. This was dead when I flew it home. You saw the flight footage earlier in the live stream. Look where it's at now. I'm going to fly the rest of this battery now. Fully dead when flying outside after 50 seconds in the 30-degree weather. This one as well. This is the second battery that I flew. I'm going to fly the rest of these now in the warmth. When I fly gigs in the wintertime, which is usually not many, but boy, lately I've had a bunch. On the way to the gig, here's the cheat code. On the way to the gig, or just if you're going out to fly in the cold, keep your batteries in a lipo-safe bag, Kevlar bag, right? But leave the top opened and put it on your floorboard and suck it up, or just don't wear your coat. That's the move. Don't wear your coat. And put your car's HVAC system on full heat. Put it on recycling, so it's not pulling in outside air. It's recycling the air and reheating the air more and more and more. And put that battery bag on the floor right under your floor vent. And run full fan on your floor vents and cook those motherfucking batteries. And then when you take off, and just keep them there for as long as you can. When you get there, leave your car on. Just roast those batteries with that nice hot air from your car's HVAC system. And then take each battery out individually, put it on the rig. When you take off, it's going to fly great for about a minute. For about 1 minute, you're going to get great flight performance, and then it's going to be cold as balls. But for that first minute, it's going to fly great. These two batteries flew like shit for that first minute because I didn't do that. They were like regular, 70-degree room temperature. So like 10 seconds after taking off, these things were balls-ass cold. But let's see how much extra runtime we get from these batteries that were at like 2 volts when I came down from from flying them outside earlier today. And I'm putting them through the same exact rig. I'm glad I thought to do this. Oh, I didn't hit the button on the transmitter. Now it's going to take forever to connect to ELRS. Come on, ELRS. Go through all the things that you go through to try to make your connection when it doesn't happen right away. There it is. This is... I'll talk about what this rig is in a second, because I forget. No, I don't forget. 0702, 40,000 kV motors, Matrix AIO. Oh, yeah. I don't know what props are on this. I have a funny feeling these are the HQ ultralight biplanes. Hey, that was a close one. Kick the OSD on for you guys so you can see the sag. I'm getting a bunch of battery warnings, but like we're 50 seconds in already. Oh! Cut that shit tight! Ooh! Almost got out of it. I got on the throttle a little bit too late. Look at this janky S-Cube. This is what happens when people come down here and open this door and then don't fix the gate afterwards. The gates afterwards. Oh! Ah! Yo, the quad gate setup here, while very cool looking, is very hard to power loop and Matty flip through. So there's an extra minute and a half. It is on the HQ Ultralight Biblade. There's an extra minute and a half from this battery. After being like almost unflyable outside. Yeah. The cold and little tiny MAH cells are a terrible combination. Let's discharge this second one that you guys saw me fly outside. Hey! This one's sitting at 3.8. See if I can get... Oh, so close! I got through 3, but I hit that 4th one. Matty flips are actually easier because I can look at the gates as I'm sort of approaching. Trying to power loop these. Oh, there's one. Trying to power loop the quad gate. The quad gate is ultra tough. That's not really a Matty flip. I didn't get the rearward momentum. I hear the dog. The dog sounds like Thumper upstairs right now. What's he doing? He's probably in here with Maggie. Nope. Where are they? Where is everybody? Ugh! The low battery full room power loop. Power loop? Wait, yeah, it is called a power loop. Why did that sound so weird just now? The key to doing this as a power loop is to increase elevation all the way up here, and then see that? Like wait, and then blast full throttle. 2 different ways to do power loops, right? Come in like low, and then don't increase altitude. Stay down here, pitch back, full throttle, and then it's less of a loop and it's more of like a ellipse, right? So you can, and it looks kind of cool because you come in really low, you scrape the ground, and then bang, and you go up and through like that. But the problem with the quad gate is this increase of altitude. What makes it easier is to come into the power loop, give it a little bit of throttle to come up like this as you're pitching back, and then full throttle. So you try to do it like in that sort of way. So I just need to adjust. I don't usually do power loops like that. I do them like that upstairs, where I climb up the wall, I wait until it stalls out, and then I hammer the throttle and throw it across the room. That looks cool because you're like climbing the wall, right? Like you're keeping that proximity to the wall, and it just looks neat. I need to, if I'm going to leave this quad gate set up here, I need to just sort of change the way that I do power loops. Also, this rig has the CO3 camera and the BetaFPV banana hammock canopy. The dog just fell down. We're going to go visit him in a second. Let me just get this ELRS antenna threaded back through the hole here. Come on. Get in there. Yeah, it's close enough. This is a fully charged battery. Ah! Now she knows not to get out of the shower when with the door open. There's kids in the house, remember? So like any nakedness, there's multiple layers of closed doors. Oh God, why did I just go to the right there? That was so weird. go see the spaghetti monster. Oh! What? Stop it! Is there someone on the couch? Oh my god, there's a Maggie on the couch. I almost hit her. She might be watching us right now. Quick, say something nice about her. Look how cute she is. There's a dog down there. I knew it. I knew there would be a dog here. This is his new absolute favorite toy. It's a little Sandy Claus. Look at him. Ugh. There's that stall that I was talking about. All I'm doing is power looping the room. Right? But that big stall just looks really fun. It looks really, really cool. Oh, she knows. Thank you. Ooh, just skimming that built-in there. Oh, she's the greatest. God. Luckiest guy. Oh, we flew almost the entire battery upstairs. I don't fly up there all that often. I miss it. This thing's hurting. What's happening with you? Why are you jiggling like that, Quad? Why are you jiggling when I hammer the throttle? Is something going on? Did I break it? Hold on. Let's see. Frame seems okay. Why is that propeller hitting the duct, though? Huh. It might just be sagging the battery down. Frame seems okay. I think it's just sagging the battery down a bunch. Weird! Let's fly it a bunch more. Really sag the battery. See it? There's a bunch of jiggles. Oh god, that ain't gonna help it. You know what it probably is? These ultra lightweight HQ props are, with things that are ultra light, they tend to also be ultra fragile. Oh man, I'm just flying like a bag of smashed assholes right now. I probably bent up a blade. There was one or two nasty crashes upstairs. There's probably a blade that's bent up. Easy way to test that, flip into turtle mode, and then very gently spin each propeller up. Slowly. And feel for the vibrations. And motor number 1 has a bunch of vibrations. 4 is clean. 3 is clean. 2's got a bunch of vibes. 2 and 1 are vibrating pretty good. These are the 1mm motor shaft, so I've either bent up props. The props look fine. I think I've bent up some motor shafts on these, which is fine because Weebleed sells 0702 bells with 1.5mm motor shafts, and you'll never bend those 1.5mm motor shafts on a 65mm lightweight rig. One more battery. We'll switch to a different rig, just for the sake of it. Let's go to the Newbie Drone Race version 3.1 for the ultimate in insanity. Super lightweight, great power, and it's got CAC firmware. Ultimate lightweight. Newbie Drone OSD. Oh my god, I can't believe it hit the ceiling that late. Ooh, Teddy! Hello, small dog. Can I shoot that gap? Nope. Buddy, why don't you try to... There you go. Come on, it's a evil intruder. Try to eat it. It's funny. There you go. Come on, chase me around. Oh my god, it keeps hitting the ceiling on those. I'm pretty dialed in on those full room power loops. You know what? This camera is at a different up tilt than I'm used to as well, though. Oh God! Yeah, the power to weight ratio of this is absolutely insane. Oh no no! Oh, I knew that was gonna be close, but I don't think it was gonna be that close. Look how quick this thing moves around. Jesus. Full tilt race rig. Man, yeah, I have to like speed up everything that I'm doing for this. Oh, please no. Oh, that's unrecoverable. Oh, look at me. Uh-oh. This thing does that. Man, it just has so... It's so light and has so much power. God damn it. Uh-oh. Dog Bull's over there somewhere. Let's lock in, chat. Let's lock in. We're locking in just like all the successful live streamers. We're locking in. Let's just say the same thing over and over again. We'll say lock in and let's go 1,000 times. And then everyone will love us. That's what success looks like in 2024/5. Oh my God! This whole ain't leaving thing instead of low battery... no, like, we're used to seeing low battery, not ain't leaving. If it says ain't leaving, I'm just going to keep flying until the battery's on fire. I don't know. Man, I'm an old person, aren't I? There you go, friends. There are two heinously powerful rigs. One of them a little bit lighter weight. Let me give you a couple of weights. That was the Newbie Drone Race Spec version 3.1, which I think is like the lightest thing that you can... it's certainly the lightest thing that you can buy. It's probably not the lightest thing you can build, but it's pretty close to the lightest thing you can build. 16.5 grams. Previously, we were flying a custom build, which was 17.7 grams. So full extra gram, but 40,000 kV motors versus 30,000 kV motors. Tri-blades versus bi-blades. All kinds of weird stuff different between these two. Both fly amazing. Quite a time to be alive. Go fly your 6 batteries, my friends. 6 a day, every day. You'll be a way better pilot before you know it. And YouTube just crashed, so I can't even look at the goddamn chat. Thanks, YouTube, for being so worthless that you've tricked us all into... never mind. Oh, my God. Please fix your shit, YouTube. Please. Please fix it. Fix it. I'll see you guys on Sunday at 3 o'clock Eastern. I'm starving. O3 air units. Not air unit. O4. Massive thumbs up. Massive, massive, massive thumbs up. Amazing job, DJI. Way to build a product for your Avata 2 and DJI Neo and then take it out of there and sell it to us. Geniuses. Love you. Bye. I'm not ready. Here's some more flying outside in the snow. Where is it? Here's the TinyWhoop I was flying a minute ago, the white one that I just showed you. Here's me flying that outside. I'll give you the whole flight. The first half of that battery. Notice the voltage sag from 30-degree temperatures. Love you. Bye. God damn this computer. I'm going to light it on fire. Come on, man.